Alrighty, so for today's lesson, I have a special guest here. Her name is Miss Bear, and she's going to be helping us decide what clothes are and aren't appropriate for going on a job. Now, this may seem very simplistic and very common sense, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. And depending on someone's situation, if you don't have access to professional clothes, sometimes you have to get creative with what you can wear and or where you go to get your clothes or what you decide to buy when you do buy clothes. So today we're going to be running through a few examples of some things that would and wouldn't be okay to wear on the job. And I want to point out that when you're on a job, depending on what your job is, depends on what you can wear. So you always need to check with your job and or where you're working, your place of employment, to see the dress code. Because 9 times out of 10, they will tell you what you should and shouldn't wear or give you like a basic borderline overview of what you should wear. But if you want details and you want specifics, you can always go ask. Never be afraid to ask questions. Questions get you in the right places, okay? So let's start off with my outfit. So I'm wearing leggings and a sweater. Would this be appropriate to go to, let's say, a basic corporate job? Absolutely not. You cannot wear leggings on the job. I'm sorry to say, but unless you're working in a field that requires athletics, most times you won't be able to wear leggings on the job. Sorry. But my sweater, on the other hand, would be appropriate because it's full coverage, it comes down past my stomach, and it looks very nice. So this would be something that would be appropriate, especially during the colder seasons. You want to wrap up and stay warm. And now let's turn over here to Ms. Bear. So we see that she's wearing a dress and she has this see-through cutout in the dress in multiple spots on that. So would what Miss Bear be wearing be appropriate? Absolutely not. Sucks to say for Miss Bear, she looks cute, but this wouldn't be appropriate. And then if you look over to my mannequin over there, you see the jacket that it's wearing. Now, jackets are a great way to cover up while still being professional, because if you can't find clothes or you can't find professional tops, as long as you can get a pair of slacks, you can always put a jacket, a nice blazer on top and wear that as your professional top, especially during the colder months. That might be a good compromise when trying to fit into a dress code. So let's run through a few other options for clothes to see what's professional. So here I have this matching set of shorts and a blazer jacket. Now notice the plaid print on the blazer jacket. Would this be appropriate to wear on the job? Any ideas? Any guesses? Yes, no, maybe so? If you said no, you'd be correct. Sadly, while cute and bordering professional, the print makes it very flashy and very unprofessional. So unless you get the okay that prints are allowed, then no, you would not be able to wear it. And also the shorts on that are too short. So try to avoid wearing shorts or skirts. Especially if you're a woman, you don't want to have your skirts be extremely short. So if you know that your skirts that you own are short or pat above mid-thigh, you should probably avoid wearing them. A safe rule of thumb is below the knee. Though style-wise, it might not be everyone's choice, it definitely is a safe choice when choosing a job. And now let's look over to another option we have here. So I have this collared shirt right here. Nice collar, beautiful bishop sleeve, button down shirt. So I'm gonna get Miss Bear to hold this bad boy right here. So we see We see the button down. That would be an appropriate thing to wear, right? And then you could always pair it with a maxi skirt. Do we see the length of the skirt? This would be an appropriate skirt. See, that would be a beautiful combo right there. Then you could tuck the shirt in, you would look nice, you'd be presentable, and you'd be a very well put together person while also still being professionally dressed and still being comfortable. Thank you, Miss Bear. Thank you. Gotta love our helper for the day. And now our third example, this number right here. Would this be appropriate to wear on the job? Notice the short length, no sleeves, cut out in the boom area. Let's take a look at that on Miss Bear. Do we see how that's laying on Miss Bear? Absolutely not. Things like this would not be appropriate on the job. And I hope that this was an obvious choice of what you shouldn't wear on the job. And lastly, this right here. So this is a really modest, really pretty, casual dress. It buttons up to the top, it buttons up to my neck right here, and then it goes past my knees. So it's very long, it's very comfortable, and it would be appropriate if my job allowed for casual dress. So let's say, for example, I was in a more casual office and my boss said that on Fridays everyone could dress down so you could wear like jeans instead of slacks and you could be more comfortable. That would be the appropriate time to wear that. But always make sure to get the okay beforehand. And then lastly, sadly, since I am not a guy, I do not own a lot of men's clothing. So the only example I could give for the guys would be a pair of slacks. I have these right here. They're less slacks and more of a elastic pant. But I did wear these when I worked at IHOP, so they are job approved. So there's always that. And then you could pair it with, once again, that button down. A safe rule of thumb is button downs and plain t-shirts. You don't want a lot of patterns or loud colors in your work wardrobe. This goes for everyone, not only men. But yes, and if you're a guy, you can always, especially if you're in a more professional setting, you can always pair it with a nice tie or bow tie. Bow ties? And just to give you a few more examples, I have some pulled up here, and you can see this man, for example, dressed in a nice suit with a button-down shirt and the slacks. Very professional, very handsome. And this pretty lady right here, she has on a button-down with a blazer. She looks very professional, very neat and clean. Your dress, the way you're dressing, you want it to be a representation of how you are. You feel clean, you look clean, you are clean. A few more examples, and we can see how her skirt is just above the knee, and she has a blazer on. Very nice, very well put together. And we can see these women right here with the long jackets, the tailored skirts, very pretty. And we can see this man right here with a three-piece suit, and he even has a nice corduroy jacket to go on top. Very handsome, very well put together, and the tie to tie it all in. And don't think that because you're working on a corporate job or that you're working a job that requires you to dress professionally that you can't incorporate your own style. You can always do things like have a fun tie, or like this man, for example, incorporating different textures and colors into your outfit. It's all about how creative you can get. So the sky's the limit. Enjoy your wardrobe, and if you all have any questions, shoot me an email. And I'll also be including some links to places that you can go. For example, if you don't have the things you could do if you don't have the resources to buy professional clothes, where you could go to get some help, or things you could do to try to resolve that. Thank you guys. And everyone say bye to Miss Bear. Bye, Miss Bear.